Hello, how to promote and sell your book. This time we look at how viral marketing works. Viral marketing is something that's talked about a great deal as being something that's useful to do to sell books and lots of other things. But I think sometimes nothing very much is said about exactly how it works and what you have to do. So I'm going to try to tackle some of the fundamentals of how viral marketing works so that you can take action on things that could make a difference. So let's get started. How does viral marketing work? Well, the good news in a sense is that the basic rules that govern how viral diseases spread really do apply to the way viral sales work. So this term viral is actually a very good word to use to describe this kind of spreading of sales. And in many ways it's pretty simple, and there's one number, just one number, which is the key to it all. And I don't know why this isn't more widely publicized, but that one number is R, sometimes R naught is how it's described. We'll get to that in a second. But R is the reproductive number. R stands for the reproductive number. And what it is the average number of other people infected by one infected person. And I'm using the word infected here because this is exactly how it works and what it means in the case of diseases being spread. And this naught with R naught is effectively indicating what the initial value is, because R can be altered, as we'll see. But what does this mean in terms of you selling your book? For book sales, one way of interpreting what R is to say it's the average number of other people buying a book as a result of what happens when one person buys it. So, in other words, one person buys your book and maybe they tell lots of other people to buy it. And if they tell lots and lots of other people to buy it and all those other people do buy it, then the R value could be quite high. Whereas if nothing happens as a result of buying your book, then the R value could be very, very low. And what's quite critical is how big the R value is. So in this simple chart here, the tipping point is the number 1. If the value of R is less than 1, then the sales are going to die out. And if R is greater than 1 or greater, then the sales are going to grow and they're going to spread. And the higher the value of R, the faster those sales are going to grow and spread. So you really want your R value to be as much bigger than 1 as you can achieve. So 1 is really the tipping point of the R value. So what you need is a high R value. And stating what is perhaps the blindingly obvious, but is so often forgotten, is the best way to get a high R value is to make sure that the book is really, really good. And you do that while you're writing it and while you're preparing it. So writing it well, getting it well edited, checking it all, making sure you have a good cover, a good title, a good subtitle, other useful stuff on the cover. All those things are going to make a difference in terms of what your initial R value is when people first start to read it. And if you cut corners and you don't bother to finish it off and make it as good as it could be, then your R value is going to be lower than it could have been. So you can't put too much effort and do too much in terms of trying to make sure that all that stuff is right in the first place. And quite frankly, if the book isn't that good, all the other tinkering that you might do to try and improve R numbers isn't really going to make a fundamental difference. It might make some difference. So getting the book well produced in the first place, definitely the high priority, but that's not all there is to it. And so what I'd like to do now is to look at things that you can do after the event, after publishing, to, and some of it can prepare beforehand, to try to push up your R value. Now, there's an expert in the field of the spread of contagious diseases, who's Professor Adam Kucharski, who incidentally written a very good book on contagion, which I would recommend, and I'll put links to it in the comment under this video. But he has an acronym called DOTS, which I think is something he's invented, which is a very simple and effective way of identifying the key 4 factors that influence the R value. And by playing with these, you can push the R value up or down. Now, in the case of disease, you're always trying to push the R value down so the disease dies out. But we're not looking at diseases, we're looking at trying to push up sales, so we want the R value to go up. But again, let's try and see a bit more detail what this is about. D in the dot stands for duration of the infectious period. So if you are thinking about disease, you know, somebody's ill, and while they're ill, and even before their symptoms come out, they may be infectious, but eventually they recover and they're not infectious anymore. When it comes to selling, as we'll see, this is about how the period of time that the reader of the book is actually doing anything that could encourage other people to catch the idea of buying the book, if you like. Opportunity is the opportunity for transmission. What makes it possible for other people to become infected? If somebody's in isolation, there aren't many opportunities. If a reader of a book never says anything to anybody about the fact they've read it, that's not going to help. But if there's a lot of activity out there, lots of contact, then the opportunity is going to increase. Transmission likelihood is how likely it is that it will be passed from one person to the other. How likely it is in the case of a book that somebody else will actually pick up the idea of buying the book from the reader. And lastly, susceptibility of the population. And here you have to think about what part of the population you're looking at. In the case of illnesses, the idea of inoculating people is very effective in reducing disease. When it comes to something like a book, then what you want to do is to make sure that you are targeting people who are susceptible to the idea of buying this particular book. So that's something to do with targeting. Let's look at that in more detail now. So we're going to apply these to book sales. That's what this is all about. Now let's first take duration. These are just some initial ideas. I think if you play around with this, you'll come up with some more. I'm trying to not make any of these videos too long. So if you can keep your reader enthusiastic for as long as possible, so that they are in the process of infecting other people, if you like, infecting their enthusiasm on other people, so that other people might buy the book, that's going to work. And in the case of books, one of the best mechanisms for that is to get somebody who likes a book to review it, because the review will stay and could potentially go on and on and on, influencing other people to buy the book. So I would say probably asking for reviews and getting reviews of your book, good reviews of course, is probably one of the best things that you can do to help. And that's all about duration. The opportunity for transmission. Well, there's lots of different angles on this. People are active on social media. That obviously helps. Just social interaction, you know, talking to friends, family, people you meet, telling them about this wonderful book you've been reading. If the reader does that, then that's going to help a lot. And then conventional media. You know, book reviews in newspapers and magazines do sell books. It's well known, and it may be an old-fashioned way of transmitting that to potential readers, but it works. And so if you can get reviews, so much the better. So the action to take is to get that message in front of potential buyers somehow or other, and look at all opportunities there. Transmission likelihood. Now, if somebody says, I've read a book, it was quite interesting, you know, just finished reading that, that's one thing. If they say, this book is absolutely fantastic, you really must read it, or they actually gift it to somebody else, that's going to make a huge difference. So in the case of your book, asking for reader assistance really can work. So asking people to recommend it to their friends or family or other people they think who enjoy it, posting their reviews, which I already mentioned, is part of that. Making reader offers, making it easier for them to buy another copy for a friend or whatever, or pass an offer to a friend. All of that is going to make a difference. And lastly, the susceptibility of the population. I think it's fairly obvious that if you mistarget things, it's not going to work. If you've got a book for kids and you're trying to sell it to grandparents, well, that might work if they've got small children. But if the book is targeted at one audience and you trying to push it to the wrong audience and they're not an audience that would buy, then that's much harder. So you want predisposed buyers. So think about who your audience is, and then you need to target the communications at them. And this is where being very clear about the book's genre is fundamental. And most conventional publishers thinking of publishing a book, one of the first questions they ask is, what genre is this book? Because they're thinking of this very point. If it's a clearly defined genre, they know who the audience is, they know who to target, and those people are more susceptible to buying the book than the public at large. So sorting this out and being very clear about it and targeting that communication is vital. So that's the last of the 4 letters in DOTS, that's susceptibility. And I've tried to include at least one action here for you to consider. So that draws this to an end. And as you can see on the screen, there's opportunities to get further assistance. And what else? Well, as you can see on the screen, I'm asking you if you mind liking this, if you did like it. Do subscribe if you'd like to keep up with what else is going on here. It is free. If you'd like to make comments on the video, and in particular if you've got any questions that you'd like me to address in future videos, please list them and I'll do my best to include material in future. If you click on the bell, then you will get notified when other things come up. So that's it for this one. Viral marketing is really, really important, and understanding those fundamentals and then playing with the dots is really going to help you. So the very best of luck with that, and thanks for listening again.